Stop what you're doing and answer this. Has your company announced a hiring freeze? Have contractors suddenly disappeared? Are multiple teams being randomly merged together? If you answered yes to these, you could be in the orange zone of upcoming layoffs. That means you have weeks, not months, to prepare. This is part 2 of our tech layoff warning series. Our previous video was on the yellow flags that give you 3 to 6 months heads up. Today, I'm sharing orange flags that means it's time to stop wondering and start acting. Because when you see most of these signs together, layoffs aren't just possible, they're being actively planned. Announcement of a hiring freeze. One of the yellow flags was open positions not being filled, but there's no clear messaging around it. Nothing is said internally. But that yellow flag turns orange when you hear a formal announcement of a hiring freeze. This will be explicit because they're not allowing any new positions going up on LinkedIn. But the reason given may be vague, something like pause due to strategic planning around growth. Your company may not be large enough for an internal memo to hit the headlines, like I'm showing in these clippings. But if you normally tune out of internal company-wide announcements from the top, keep an ear out for broad hiring freezes. Internal job postings vanish. Related to the hiring freeze is when internal vacancies aren't just not being filled, they disappear. If you have an internal wiki with open positions, the info is suddenly deleted from the page. And sometimes the hiring manager, it could be a team lead trying to backfill for someone who left, they aren't even told until they go looking to see what the admin delay is. Then they're told the position is closed and that they have to make do with less. Make do with less, by the way, is another phrase to listen out for, or something similar. It's a frequent AI justification for layoffs. Let me show you a big example. In October 2025, Amazon announced 14,000 corporate layoffs. Corporate includes marketing and finance, but it's also technical staff, software engineers, data scientists, tech managers, and other IT roles. Let's take a look at the official line from Andy Jassy, CEO. In June 2025, this is what he wrote in an internal memo. He said that we will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today. In other words, you will make do with less. Contractors disappear. Third orange warning is when a lot of contractors are let go. There's always some churn in temporary staff, that's what they're for. But the general levels tend to swing maybe 20% up and down over time. If a whole lot go within a month or quarter, then that's a different matter. That's the third orange warning. Here's a bonus tip. If you're being told to engage in handover activities with one contractor who is leaving, have a quiet word to see if there are others also moving on. I've contracted off and on over a 20-year period, and we do talk to each other even when we're scattered across the company. New effectiveness surveys. You already get an employee questionnaire in your inbox maybe once a quarter. It's a happiness check. Don't worry about that. What I'm talking about here is a completely new survey that doesn't seem part of the usual schedule, and it's certainly not measuring your job satisfaction. Instead, there's mention of role clarity and process efficiency. Think of Elon Musk's Doge operation, where federal employees were asked to reply to an email with justification of what they did. Tech companies won't use that kind of hammer, but if you get a questionnaire asking you to rate how well you understand your role within the organization, I'd suggest you award yourself top marks. Your manager starts acting weird. Depending on your level, your manager may not have any more of an inside track on forthcoming layoffs than you have. It's why I've put the sayers together. You need to keep your own eyes open. But in some cases, they may have been given heads up. It's more likely to be a directive to get prepared to cut 10 to 20% of their teams as opposed to specific individuals. Managers are human. You may pick up an off vibe in your interactions. They may be more distant in your one-on-ones. If you ask about career progression, they may avoid further discussion, and that's an orange warning. But also keep an ear out for clues, whether intentional or unintentional. For example, if they ask you if you refreshed your LinkedIn profile recently, maybe this is a good time to do so. The management consultants are in town. Next is you're minding your own business on that one day in the office and you see strangers in suits marching down the corridor and huddling into meetings with upper management. If you hear mention of Bain, Deloitte, McKinsey, these are the management consultancies that are hired to conduct efficiency studies. That efficiency survey that slid into your inbox a month ago, that was likely their doing. That's another orange flag. Okay, story time. Some years ago, my then employers called in Deloitte to review a massive project that seemed to be going off the rails. Each of the tech leads was interviewed separately in a room by a panel of Deloitte consultants. I was one of those nervous leads. We didn't know if Deloitte would say to HQ to get rid of all the tech leads or shut down the entire effort, which was about 80 colleagues. But here's the thing. Some of the problems besetting the project were down to the faraway HQ. The Deloitte consultants recognised that, and their review helped turn things around without canning the project or the people. So it's not always bad, right? But I think the outcome depends on the question posed by the company to the consultants. In our case, it was something like, what can be done to help deliver this project? In other cases, the question is, where can we best cut to achieve 20% reduction in headcount? That's a pretty leading question, right? New C-suite executives. In our video on the early yellow warning signs, I mentioned top HR and finance folk leaving. This is different. This is the very top. Changing the CEO, CFO, or COO often means a big restructure is coming, and the new people have to show how effective they are. So they often implement changes within a year. Reorganizations that don't make sense. Change at the top may seem so far away from your current position as to be irrelevant to your working day. But you may be impacted when your team gets combined with another somewhat unrelated group. Let's say you're part of front-end app development, but suddenly you're reporting to the same manager as DevOps. It doesn't make sense. But reporting structures are being shuffled, seemingly like the rolling of dice. That's an orange warning sign. Major projects cancelled. Related to the previous sign is when major projects are suddenly cancelled. Now, that could be part of normal corporate ups and downs. The company could have lost a massive client and they need to pivot. But watch out for multiple projects being shut down within the same period. Now, in these days of remote working, that's not always obvious when you're not yourself involved in some of these projects. That's when that one day in the office is useful. Get to the canteen to hear what's going on. Free coffee disappears. Speaking of the canteen, watch out for changes there. In the video on early warning signs, we mentioned perks being dialed back. Restaurant lunches become office donuts, and the good coffee gets replaced by the cheap stuff. But our 10th orange sign is that the coffee disappears completely. The machine is gone, taken away for repair, but never gets replaced. That orange warning sign is flashing fast. So let's say you're seeing 5, 6, 7 of these 10 orange flags. What do you do about it? So this section is the career clinic. Usually Kyle, who is the career coach on this channel, does this section, but it's Christmas. So I asked him to send me the write-up and I'll walk you through it. So here's the action plan. First, you should start immediately on writing up an achievement document. This document has notes about every project you've led, every problem you've solved, every metric you've improved. Answer these 3 questions for each achievement. What was the challenge? What did you do? What was the result? And these become your interview stories. Do this while you are still in your job and you can still check the project files. In 6 months, you won't remember the details that make great interview answers. And let's say the layoffs don't happen, or at least they don't happen to you. This is the perfect material for your annual self-appraisal. The next step is that you update your resume straight after you've completed your achievement document. And the key point is to use your notes from the document. Did you reduce the processing time of that pipeline by 30%? Save the company 50k by replacing a licensed tool with an open source integration? Give concrete points for your resume. Third point is LinkedIn. Yeah, don't groan. LinkedIn has become something different to what it was, let's say, 10 years ago, but it is still hugely important for tech roles. So go to LinkedIn, click your profile photo, and set yourself as open to work. That puts the green circle around your image. But here's the key. Select share with recruiters only. This hides the green banner from your employer. You don't want to flag to your employers that you are already looking elsewhere. And while you're in LinkedIn, make sure your profile matches your updated resume. Recruiters do cross-reference, and inconsistencies are orange flags for them too. Finally, I'll say it's time for your financial reality check. How many months can you survive without a monthly paycheck? If it's less than 6, it's time to cut expenses now. Cancel subscriptions you don't need, delay major purchases, and build that emergency fund. In the next video in this series, I'll cover red warning flags, and we need to talk about timing. Orange flags gives you 1 to 3 months warning, but red flags means you're in the final 2 to 4 weeks. The clock isn't just ticking anymore, it's about to stop. But there are still some practical things you can do to help yourself out. Subscribe to be sure that you don't miss this one.